Should one hope for luck? Many will say, no, waiting for the mercy of fate is a thankless task. However, this is not entirely true. Many wonderful events, which delighted a multitude of people, occurred quite by chance. We will tell you about 10 such events, and you can add your own stories in the comments. Let's go. Event number 10, the Peri Ray Map. In 1929, a German scientist and theologian, Gustav Adolf Deissmann, was exploring the ancient Topkapi Palace in Istanbul in search of interesting artifacts. In one of the most hidden and dusty corners of the library, he found a fragment of a map. It seemed that there were many geographical maps in medieval Turkey. However, this find became so valuable that it questioned many historical facts of the world. As it turned out, the map found was created in 1513 by Peri Ray himself, a Turkish admiral and passionate explorer of the seas. The document amazed the German scientist with its enormous accuracy for its time, in depicting the contours of the African and American continents. But even this was not the most astonishing feature of the Ottoman cartographer's creation. On the piece of gazelle skin was marked a continent that today is called Antarctica. Does this mean the Turks knew about it several centuries before the rest of the world? The officially announced date of the discovery of the frozen continent is considered to be 1773. What completely amazed the scientists was the fact that on the Peri Ray map, Antarctica is depicted not. In its modern form, that is, completely covered with ice, but completely without it. At the same time, it is known that the total glaciation of the continent occurred millions of years ago. How could the Ottoman military leader know what Antarctica looked like without its endless ice? Could he be a time traveler? Or an emissary of alien civilizations? We will probably never know the answers to these questions. However, we do know for sure. The Peri Ray Map is one of the most astonishing creations in history. Isn't that an interesting episode? Our channel constantly features equally amazing stories. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell to find out a maximum of fascinating stories. Event number 9, the Antira Mechanism, how April 1901. A group of divers decided to observe the life of sea sponges near the coast of the Greek island of Antira. A storm interrupted their swim, forcing the divers to wait it out in a quiet, secluded place. While the open water was in bad weather, the divers, out of boredom, decided to dive where the wave conditions allowed it. The very first diver who descended to the bottom in this new place quickly surfaced with astonishing news. He had discovered the remains of a ship, and around it, numerous gold coins and unusual statues. Astonished by the find, the divers immediately went to the city and reported it to the authorities. Further study of the objects raised from the bottom near the island of Antira yielded amazing results. Besides ancient coins and sculptures, a very unusual item was found on the sunken ship that had been submerged centuries ago. Subsequently, it was called nothing less than the first computer in human history. But let's take it step by step. The item, which historians name the Antira Mechanism, was a complex structure with more than 30 gears. All of them moved smoothly, forming a precise system. They were enclosed in a rectangular wooden case with bronze plates. On two surfaces of the device, there were dials. Scientists who examined the artifact established that it was created around the 1st century BC. The complex construction of the device allowed it to be called the first real computer. It was used for calculating a total of 42 astronomical events. Among them were solar and lunar eclipses and the irregular trajectory of the moon. The Antira Mechanism is a most astonishing artifact. The perfection of its construction and its association with such an ancient epoch are mind-boggling. The device was literally thousands of years ahead of its time. Event number 8, the stone spheres of Costa Rica. In the 1930s, an American company was carrying out a project in the southern part of Costa Rica. Workers were clearing the jungle to use the area for banana cultivation in the future. During the work, people stumbled upon something quite unusual. Amidst the lush vegetation, there were many perfectly round spheres. They were made of stone and varied in size. The discovery wasn't a cache of gold or a complex device, but it still looked extremely mysterious. Several hundred stone spheres were later found in 2 more locations in Costa Rica. All the artifacts shared characteristics. They were made of gabbro diabase or sandstone and were almost perfectly shaped. The sizes of the spheres varied. The smallest ones were only a few centimeters in diameter, and the largest ones were 2 meters. The larger stone spheres better retained their smoothness and precise geometry. The maximum weight of an artifact was 16 tons. According to scientists, the stone spheres of Costa Rica likely served as cult objects or simply as rich decoration for the first inhabitants of these lands. However, their exact purpose, as well as the technology of their production, remains unknown. Event number 7. Herculanum. We all know about the ancient city of Pompeii, which was buried under a layer of ash due to the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. But how many are aware of such a place as Herculanum? Yet this site is no less, and perhaps even more interesting from a historical point of view, than Pompeii. In 1709, an Italian farmer decided to dig a well. However, instead of water, he found strange stone details in the ground. Digging deeper, the astonished peasant stood still. Before his eyes lay a real ancient Roman theater, just like those depicted in books about past civilizations. As it turned out later, this was the first time someone had laid eyes on the magnificent vaults of the city of Herculaneum since the terrible eruption. The suddenly discovered site was much closer to the ill-fated Mount Vesuvius than the famous Pompeii. Therefore, it experienced a more rapid impact from the extremely hot lava. As a result, in Herculaneum, everything was preserved almost perfectly, including organic materials, wooden items, food supplies. Archaeologists found a multitude of houses and even scrolls in excellent condition in the city. It's simply amazing that Pompeii is the only city buried under ash that is widely talked about. If you know something interesting about the beautiful and mysterious Herculaneum that we haven't mentioned, please share it with us in the comments. Event number 6, Ancient Tombstone in the Forest. In 2020, a young resident of Caesarea in Israel, 13-year-old Stav Meir, went mushroom picking in the forest with his family. Armed with a knife, the boy scouted for forest gifts in the dense grass. Suddenly, his curious gaze caught something atypical for the natural landscape. Stav noticed something angular sticking out of the ground. On closer inspection, the boy realized that it was a man-made stone slab covered with carvings. Together with his father, young Meir took the find to the scientists. After examining the slab, it turned out to be an incredibly valuable ancient artifact. The age of the item was at least 1,500 years. What the boy accidentally found in the forest turned out to be a fragment of the tombstone of a very wealthy and noble person. The skillfully carved and decorated slab was most likely brought to Caesarea from Byzantium. The artifact dates back to the period of Greek domination. In ancient times, Caesarea was of great importance to Rome and Byzantium. The fact that many ancient artifacts have been found in the vicinity of the city surprises no one. However, the fact that this significant discovery was made not by a scientist, but by a simple 7th grader is astonishing. Event number 5, the Edinburgh Vaults. The Edinburgh Vaults are one of the most mysterious and darkest places in Scotland. Its history is long and full of blank spots. Nowadays, tours are conducted in the ancient underground chambers, but few know that these structures were forgotten for many years and were only rediscovered accidentally in the 1980s. Norrie Rowan, a resident of Edinburgh, once decided to do a major renovation in his old house. The man lifted the floorboards and saw how the rotten covering literally broke through, revealing a cavity underneath. Rowan looked down and saw an arched vault. It turned out that under the Scotsman's house were the once famous Edinburgh Vaults. These were chambers formed by the arch of a bridge and equipped with simple furniture. They were created in the 18th century. The rooms were intended to be used as storage for merchants. Over time, this secluded place was increasingly used for illegal purposes. They illegally made alcohol there, held entertainment establishments, and hid criminals. Over the years, without special care and repair, the microclimate in the vaults deteriorated, and the place was abandoned. The ill repute of the former vaults gave rise to many legends. Many believe that the restless souls of fugitive criminals and their victims languish under the paved streets of Edinburgh. Today, the ancient vaults are well studied. Tours are conducted there, and guides talk about the historical facts and legends associated with this place. Many claim to have seen and heard spirits inhabiting the gloomy dungeons. Would you like to visit such an attraction? Write in the comments. Event number 4, Roman Villa in the Backyard. A resident of Wiltshire County in the United Kingdom, carpet designer Luke Irvin, in 2015 decided to run electricity to an old barn on his property. When the workers he hired started digging, they unexpectedly discovered a strange mosaic in the ground. The knowledgeable homeowner immediately suspected it was very ancient and called in scientists, and what they discovered on the site is both astonishing and awe-inspiring. It turned out that the mosaic was just a small part of an extensive complex of buildings buried under the soil on Irvin's property. The Roman villa was most likely built between 175 and 220 AD and was actively improved until the mid-4th century. Historians believe that the complex had not been visited or touched by anyone for 1,400 years since the owners left, making it incredibly valuable for study. Archaeologists discovered a vast number of household items and personal belongings of those who lived there on the site of the ancient villa. The nature and condition of the finds indicated that the property belonged to a very wealthy family, leading a luxurious life. But these people also experienced tragedies. For example, among the items, a small stone coffin for an infant was found. Scientists who studied the Roman villa in the backyard of an ordinary Briton say it is an extremely valuable find for global science. Event number 3, Olduvai Gorge. In the early 20th century, a German entomologist, Wilhelm Kattwinkel, went to Tanzania to study rare species of butterflies. To the scientist's disappointment, he failed to find a sufficient number of the required insects. However, he accidentally discovered something far more valuable to the world: the amazing antiquities of Olduvai Gorge. In the process of chasing an exotic butterfly, the entomologist literally stumbled upon remarkably well-preserved remains. Later, in the 1930s, these were identified as the skeletons of hominids, i.e., early humans. Professional archaeologists Lewis and Mary Leakey arrived at the secluded gorge. They established that the remains of ancient humans of 3 different subspecies belonging to various eras had rested in the Olduvai Rift for many hundreds of years. Among them were some of the earliest representatives of humanity in general. In addition, numerous household items and primitive tools were found near the skeletons. Close to the human remains, there were also many skeletons of animals and birds. The accidentally discovered Olduvai Gorge has become one of the most significant archaeological sites on Earth. The findings there provided scientists with a wealth of invaluable information about the origins of humanity and the history of various biological species on the planet. Event number 2, the Rosetta Stone. The history of ancient Egypt has intrigued scientists for decades. However, deciphering ancient writing proved elusive for a long time. But in 1799, the universe miraculously gifted researchers with the key to the secrets of the pharaohs. That year, a group of French soldiers were doing earthworks to fortify a fort in Rosetta, Egypt. Suddenly, while digging, the men stumbled upon a stone slab. Upon examining it, they quickly realized that it was an ancient artifact with inscriptions. When scientists began studying the find, the global community had reason to rejoice. The text carved into the granite was written in 3 languages. 2 of them were ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic dialects, and the 3rd was ancient Greek. The latter was well known to historians and could be easily read. This fragment became the key to deciphering ancient Egyptian writing. Scientists hypothesized that the content of the texts should be the same, compared the symbols, and realized they were correct. They then used this knowledge to translate existing Egyptian inscriptions. The Rosetta Stone was inscribed with a text written in Memphis, a major city in ancient Egypt, in 196 AD. The complete deciphering of the inscription was finished by 1822. Egyptian writing became accessible to humanity again after almost a millennium of oblivion. The discovery of the Rosetta Stone played a huge role in the development of global science. If the slab had remained buried and deteriorating in the ground, many valuable discoveries would never have happened. After the French found the artifact, it was seized by England. Now the stone is kept in the United Kingdom. Lovers of thrilling stories have long noticed that, for some reason, mystical stories often occur with military personnel. And the case with the discovery of the Rosetta Stone is just one of many. Once, a civilian flew a drone over a tropical forest, filming nature. At one point, the camera captured a body of water in the middle of the forest, and in it, the floating bodies of several soldiers. The drone owner immediately reported the finding to the authorities, and people were sent to the specified location. They found the soldiers from the video, but completely alive and healthy, sitting on the shore. No one can explain the presence of these astonishing frames. Event number 1, Centuri, a city shaped like a human. The island of Sicily is famous for its architecture, recognizable cuisine, and luxurious views. However, there is another unique attraction here. It is Centuri, a city shaped like a little human. This feature of the settlement in the Italian hinterland became known to people recently. Drone owners noticed it. However, it has already attracted a lot of tourists. Centuri is an ancient city, founded by the first inhabitants of Sicily. During wars with Greece and Rome, the settlement played an important role as an observation point, as it is located on the hills. The fertile soils of this area also made it attractive for settlement. For centuries, people moved to Centuri, building their homes without any particular plan. Over time, the holdings expanded, filling all the space between several cliffs. Only recently, it became clear that the inhabited area has the unusual shape of a little human. Today, Centuri is very popular to observe from above. Man-made objects and the natural landscape amazingly intertwine, forming a detailed schematic figure. Without exaggeration, this Italian city is one of the largest attractions known to people. Random discoveries or fortunate coincidences can bring us joy and amazement for a long time. Surely there have been unplanned but pleasant episodes in your life too. Write about them in the comments. We will be happy to read about your successes. If you like this video, like it and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new videos. See you in the next episodes.